What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Covenant Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I am your host, Ryan Stertzbach, and joining me today is
Derek Curl,
Brian Lane,
Mike Devine.
And we have a really deep, sometimes some people would say hard to talk about topic today. But first, just a couple housekeeping things. If you guys have anything you want to tell us about or you want to see us talk about here for any of the pastors or anything, you can always email us at covenantchurchnc1@gmail.com, and you just put Covenant Podcast in the subject line, and we'll see what we can do about that. Also, just if you guys haven't watched, and if you're a parent and you haven't watched the last two podcasts where we had some college students come in and we talked about how to bridge the gap between just the church and college and that gap that's between there, and just some ways, some practical ways that you can stop that fall from happening when some kids go off to college. And but anyway, those two are great. Go watch those on all of our platforms and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Mike, what's our topic today?
Oh, yeah, man. I've been excited about this topic for a few weeks now that Ryan and I talked about and decided to do it after touching base with these two guys. But our subject today is addiction. And addiction comes in all kind of ways, has a lot of different faces. It can be alcohol, drugs, sexual addiction, pornography. I know those two kind of link together, but just addiction in general. And our goal is with this whole thing today is that maybe some of you guys that have felt like your addiction was leading you down a dead-end road you couldn't get off of, that maybe you'll see something in the lives of these guys and see what God's done in their life and see that there is hope even in the middle of a mess. And so I want to introduce you to both of them kind of in a more in-depth way from a personal place. I've known Derek since he was about 3 or 4 years old, since he moved to Lincolnton, actually. His parents, I became friends with the family, and Derek and I, he was in my youth group. He was the first drummer on my worship team. He was a kid that, for the most part, honestly, all the way through high school, he was pretty focused. You know, he did some of the same dumb high school stuff that we all do, but for the most part, he was a good kid, really focused on the worship team. In fact, still is on our worship team, but got sidetracked along in his journey as we were, as a matter of fact, we were coaching football together when some of this happened, and I stood over him one day thinking he was dying, I'll be quite honest with you. And that's not a joke. That was serious. I thought I was about to lose my boy. And he's kind of like a son to me in a lot of ways. And so, but we got a story to tell with what God's done in his life. This is Brian. He's already told you who he was, but I've known Brian pretty much all of his life as well. I knew his dad. Bought some motorcycles and different things from his dad over the years. Anyway,
well, they
jet
were from
skis. Me. Yeah, I actually bought them from Brian. But anyway, I've known him since he was a kid because I knew his dad and I knew his stepmom, and I grew up together. And we've had conversations on and off. And I wouldn't call us really close, but I always liked him. Just a kind of a casual friend. But over the last year and a half, God's brought our lives into the same place, and I've watched a move of God in his life and a release from captivity in him that I believe is available for anybody who will listen. So we'll turn it back over to Ryan because he's got some questions for these guys, and hopefully they'll be doing most of the talking. This is a very difficult subject matter. Mm-hmm. It's really emotional. I've talked to both of them this week, and I know it's really hard for them to open up their hearts, but I really appreciate you guys, your courage to come tell your story because there's a lot of people need to hear it. So
right. We're going to start off with kind of like a top-down view of it. If you could summarize it, how did your addiction start?
Well, it started, I was playing football in college freshman year, 18 years old, fresh out of high school. I made it almost through the whole season, blew out my right ankle, had to get total reconstruction done. The doctor told me, your left ankle's about there too, so you're done. You're done playing football. Right. So after the surgery, they prescribed pretty strong painkillers, and I got, after I was told I couldn't play football, like I didn't know who I was anymore. So the painkillers kind of took away everything, but you can only hurt for so long. So they quit prescribing those, and I happened to take like a Xanax, and I fell in love with that because it just numbed everything mentally, physically, emotionally, everything, it took it away, and it just spiraled from there. And that's how it all started for me. So,
How about you, Brian?
Yes, they're very similar. Mine started with which I was I had, used a lot of different substances beforehand, but mine started at a doctor. I went to the dentist and got prescribed a lot of painkillers for a tooth pull, a lot, and kind of when those ran out, I didn't feel good. You know how that is.
withdrawal.
Yeah, and bought everything I could off the street, and that's kind of where it started. I just kept on and kept on and kept on until I realized, I definitely had a problem.
When, just go on top of that, when was that moment? Do you remember just something clicking in your
It
head?
was 2009, 2010 area. Yeah. You mean when did I know I was?
Mm-hmm. What were you feeling? Tell us kind of about that when you realized that you did have that kind of problem.
Well, yeah. At first, it was it was a physical thing, which would have been a lot easier just to stop back then. But if I could have, but yeah, once I kind of realized I had a problem, I sought help. Got put into into this program, the Suboxone program, and that stuff ended up. I was in there. I couldn't get off it either. I think, in my opinion, it's worse than the pills. I did that for years, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't quit. No matter what, I had kids, I had wife, I had everything, that you could want, and I couldn't give it up for any of them. Rough deal.
Yeah. How about you, Derek?
Before I talk about when I realized, I want to point out that if you know a drug addict, they didn't wake up one morning and say, "Man, I'm going to be a drug addict." That sounds really. Nobody does that. Okay, nobody does that, because there's a lot of people say, it's their choice. Yeah, it's that choice to take the first one, but after that, it takes over mentally, physically. It changes the makeup of your brain. Science has proved that. I mean, it changed who I was as a person. I think Mike can testify to that. But I realized that I was physically addicted after I got caught using just tons and tons and tons of pills. I got caught, and so I quit cold turkey. And I was so naive, so young at that age, that I didn't know that I had become physically or mentally addicted to this stuff.
You don't realize that you're in the middle of it.
And Mike, I was with Mike, and I quit cold turkey. It was about 2-3 days after I had not used anything, and I had a grand mal seizure right in the middle of a football field, and it about killed me. And I didn't realize I was so mentally addicted to it. Because after that seizure, I went to a treatment facility, and I got cleaned up for a little while. I didn't realize how mentally addicted it was for me until probably when I joined the Coast Guard. I would say it was just a constant thought in my head. I couldn't shake me wanting to use. And like Brian said, you try to stop, and I was more of, it wasn't continuous, active. It was weekends whenever I could get this and this, but I couldn't stop doing that either. I got married, had a kid. That's still none of that can make a person stop using drugs, alcohol, sex. I mean, so that's
I think the thing that you're just talking to these guys over the years, you think you get motivated by changes in your life. Why wouldn't you? If you got 2 beautiful kids, now you got 2, why would that not be motivation enough to stop? But I'll tell you, in my experience, man, I've watched people that had the world by the tail, so to speak. I've watched people that own multi-million-dollar businesses that were risking life and limb on an everyday basis. I've watched people die, by the way, that had everything that we think we want.
Absolutely.
And, so anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I appreciate you guys' story, man. That's good stuff.
I wrote down a chemical solution to a spiritual problem. That's a lot of times they say, like in your rehabs and AAs and stuff. That's really what you're looking for, and you can never get enough. I mean, it's and like if it like me, I was daily. I mean, I woke up 4 or 5 in the morning, doing them. And I mean, it was everyday thing. It wasn't
Was the thought in your mind whenever it was happening, for even for you? You said, "Well, man, I got married and I had kids." Did you think you had a problem then, and then was like, "Well, once I get married, I'll stop"? Did that go through your head at all, anytime? Like, or was that not there? Because why I'm asking is because I know those excuses come in all shapes and sizes. So
you're right.
For example, like if someone is, say, struggling with sex or whatever, they're like, well, when I get married, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But, like
we do that with our spiritual life.
Exactly.
Anyway, like, well, when I get older, I'll quit doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll do it next week. Do it tomorrow.
Really?
It's my last time.
Yeah.
But that, I'll be honest, I don't think that thought ever crossed my mind.
No.
I thought I was so good at hiding it, and I wasn't. Everybody knew. They weren't stupid,
I was around Derek about pretty much every day then. He had been to college, came home. We were coaching together. First year of coaching together, we had an incredible relationship. Derek and I have always had a good relationship. But the second year, I knew something was different. I confronted him in a hardcore way because I was like a dad to him in a lot of ways too. And he would just lie, and I knew he was lying, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was that was going on in his life. And when he finally got busted and called me on a Sunday afternoon, I'll never forget that, and said, I'm addicted, man. I'm a drug addict. And I was like, well, and in one way I thought, thank God I know what's wrong with you. But I think I knew that kind of anyway. And I was standing there the day. I fired him from coaching that very moment, told him he couldn't come around again. And he came to our game on a Wednesday just to tell the kids about it and walk down to speak to me, and had that seizure on the field. And, like I said, I thought he was dying in front of me. And anyway, I said all that to say all this. I think if you read stories about people doing stuff like that and having situations like that, but just knowing the bad information doesn't stop you from going down that dead end road. It doesn't. And I also want to ask you guys this. I know it's kind of one of our questions, but do you think that addiction starts in people a lot of times? For you personally, were there other reasons underlying? Like you talked about football, and I don't know what your issue was, but from my experience, people have underlying pains.
100%.
That they're trying to disclose. What do you know what they were? I mean, did you ever figure that out? Did you? Yeah.
I can tell you. I mean, in I can tell you what I experienced when I was. I guess it would have been about 28. We had gotten pregnant with our first one, Rylan, and I wasn't ready. We weren't actively trying, and it happened. I got scared. I mean, I was drinking a lot, using other substances. I wasn't addicted to anything. I mean, trust me, from 18 to 28, I done God knows what. I mean, it was cat tranquilizers and GHB and you name it.
Like really a cat tranquilizer?
He liked to have a good time.
We were heavy into, just club drugs and club stuff. And I just wasn't ready to settle down. Well, then 6 months later, here comes another one. And
child, that is.
Yeah, another child, yeah.
Which, by the way, he's an incredible dad now. So I know he's saying these were hard moments for him now.
At the time, yes. It probably saved my life, to be honest with you, the way it happened. Because I don't know what would have happened had I not had kids. I mean, that's, really the reason I fight, or did.
So you were scared you couldn't be a good dad?
I don't know what it was. I was mad. I had a lot of stuff I wrote down here. I mean, at this time, Dad had sold the business, what I thought, was going to be my future. So I had a job change. I had a lot of depression, I was angry at Jennifer for
That's his wife.
letting this happen.
Yeah.
He was there though when it happened, y'all.
Yeah.
When they had made the baby.
Yeah.
So I'm not letting him pass off blame on anybody.
Yeah.
He was there.
I was there. I was an active participant. Well, she's probably going to kill me, but there
Yes,
was
she
supposed
is.
to be birth control, and I thought that was, so I blamed it on her. And I mean, I really took it like a ticket to do what I wanted. I was mad at her. She did this, and she made these choices for me, and I should.
It's always
be
somebody else.
responsible. Exactly.
When
It's
you're
always
addicted.
somebody else. This is just the way I feel at times. It's not the way I feel now.
No,
by
that's
no
why we're
means.
asking. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good.
But at this time, I had, job change, marriage, 2 kids, DWI in 2009, 2010 New Year's. Yeah, I drank and drove on New Year's Eve, yeah. That's a whole nother story. They chased me through the woods. It was crazy. I don't know if I've ever told you about that. But,
Yeah, me.
yeah, it was. I got a bunch of them. But a lot of stuff kind of happened all at once. And then, like I said, when I went and had a tooth pulled, and I found something. I found what I thought was a solution.
Yeah.
They gave me, just for short term, they made me who I thought I wanted to be. They gave me energy to be a dad, to be a husband, to be to get all this stuff done. In my mind, I was doing better at work. I was doing better. I was making everybody else around me, content.
Seemed like to you anyway, right?
Exactly. and that fun wears off really quick. That's what a lot of people don't understand about addiction is, after a month or two, it's not fun no more. You're taking it to be normal. Like it's extreme high or extreme low.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work too.
And then when you're extreme low,
Yeah.
it's the best way I can describe it is like if you were super hungry. Like, if you ain't eating for 4 or 5 days, you ain't thinking about nothing else. But you can't do nothing else unless you have them. Like,
And then if you took 3 last week to get high, it takes 4 this
it
week,
takes
right?
4. And
Yeah,
it
you're
just
chasing
keeps
that
increasing and increasing.
first high all the time.
In 2016, I probably had a $150 a day habit.
Wow.
I mean, that's how bad it got.
Yeah.
Quick.
And probably a little more than that. I mean, obviously, there ain't many people that can even afford that, but and when we couldn't either. But I mean, I chased it till I didn't have nothing left, and put a lot of people through a lot of misery that didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
What about you, Derek? What emotional
My
thing?
why, it's tough, man. Oh, I gotta get in the mic. I forgot. I lost my first love, which was Jesus, and I thought my identity was in stuff like football and.
Popularity and all
Yeah,
that
like
stuff.
being this larger than life dude. That's who I still am. I got a big personality, and I'm funny, and I love people, and I like to make people laugh.
He's modest.
And I had, I mean, that's who
True,
I
he's not,
am.
he's not
Like,
from here either. So.
yeah, it's who I am. Like, and I was a good football player, and all this stuff, right? And I put my identity in that, and it wasn't by anybody that told me that. My parents didn't, the people at church didn't. It was something that I had developed. In my mind, that's who I was, like this guy. And when I lost that, it just spiraled. Like, that's when I found the pills that could just numb that feeling of not knowing who I was anymore. you know, in that identity that I was this football player, good kid, like, you know, everybody's friend and all that stuff. And it spiraled into, you know,
It's hard to settle down into normal
yeah,
life.
it spiraled quick too. It went from like a couple a day to like 9 or 10 in the morning, 9 or 10 in the afternoon, 9 or 10 at night, couple in between. You know, I looked at it like they were meals almost, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it just, and it, that was when I was 18, 19. And I got busted, caught, you know, and I got cleaned up for a little while. And you'd have thought having a seizure, about dying, would, you know, stop it. You know, wow, you almost died, man. That, you know, that really it didn't. It didn't. Like, that's what I'm saying, that, you know, I had to have something not of this earth happen to me before I could quit. Because nobody on this earth, nothing that could happen, nothing anybody said to me on this earth was going to make me stop. But that was my why. Like, I lost my identity in Christ. Like, I lost my first love. So, yeah.
Man. So, as you guys have already kind of said before, and you said, like, the people who are probably affected most are probably the people that, like, are around you. In your opinion, like, who's those people who got hurt the most? Is it the people that kind of like saw you from start to finish, go through the whole thing? Like, it's almost like not pulling off a Band-Aid, but it's something that continues over years and years.
You want me to take that one?
I'm going to take it,
Y'all
too,
both
but-
going to take it.
Yeah, but I'm just offering it to you.
I mean,
being the gentleman I am.
I wrote down 100% Jennifer, my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, she was there even through, you know, like, I met her back in them really, really rough days, you know, when I was 20, 21. And so she's seen all that, kind of made it through all that. We get married, kids, and then my addiction itself started then. So she's definitely.
So you
been
didn't have a
through
whole
it.
lot of sense before you got addicted. Is what you get
No,
now.
I was already predispositioned, but, you know, there again, I didn't think I had that problem. I didn't think I'd get addicted.
Yeah.
I've done everything under the sun, and
Yeah.
I didn't have no problem with it. I thought that was for other people, you know.
Right.
It can happen to absolutely anybody. And you see it a lot now that I think about it. You know, I mean, I race dirt bikes, and, you know, you see it a lot in athletes, and because it's hard to admit you have a problem because it shows weakness, and it shows. So it takes us
That's good.
a lot longer to even realize that it's a problem. You know, I always, like I told you before, we'll deal with it later, and you never do. I mean, it just keeps on and keeps on, but you're so detached. Like, when you live in that world, that's all you're thinking about. I'm not thinking about, is Jennifer happy? I'm not thinking about, or my kids, am I doing everything I should for them? Because truthfully, if you don't have those, you can't do anything else. When you're, you're miserable. I mean, like I said, it's extreme high or extreme low, and I mean, it's severe depression when you're low. And I mean, you're short-tempered, you're just everything. And I mean, it costed her a husband. I mean, I there was no affection. There was no, I mean, we were roommates, and to be honest with you, I mean, it hasn't really been that long. I mean, I stepped foot in here, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was still a mess.
A warm mess. He's not a hot mess anymore.
Yeah, it was a warm mess. Yeah, that's Derek's quote. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, warm mess. I mean, it is. I mean, I wasn't thinking anything about anybody else but me. It's a very selfish disease. And in my eyes, it was the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely 100% say Jennifer is who I hurt the worst.
Big D, you up, man? What do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, I know I broke my Heavenly Father's heart. That's tough. Sorry. My wife, like Brian said. I wrote down that most spouses that are married to an addict immediately raise the question of, like, what did I do,
Yes.
or am I not enough that you have to do this?
Yep.
Like, and I know Brian can attest to this. I can. Most addicts, alcoholics, that never crosses our mind. But it crosses theirs, you know, and I can see that now, like, but my oldest son too, his early years, he did not get the best of me. That hurts to this day. The people like I love the most, mom, dad, my wife, Mike, the list goes on. They lost like all trust in me, and I see that now. Like they should have. Oh man, what? But it's
It's hard to get that back too.
it's hard. It takes a long time to get that back, and I don't think I've got it all back, which they have every right
I hear me.
to not. You know, I used to get taken to the doctor by my wife for 5 years. That went on, you know. And when it first happened, when I first got clean, it used to make me so mad because I'm like, I'm not a child, you know.
Yeah.
But now I can see it through her eyes, you know. She was just protecting me from that thought from my head, right, telling me that, hey, man, because I got a medical record, you know, this thick that says I got back problems, leg problems, all this stuff, right? And I could just say, man, my back hurts. Bam, here you go. So my wife definitely got the brunt of it because when we got married, it was pretty bad. I mean, even I was in the military when we got married, but that didn't stop me, you know. So she got the brunt of it. I don't know how many nights she stayed up wondering whether or not I'd come home, crash my car into a ditch. If she'd come home and I'd just be laying on the floor dead, you know, from overdosing or something. So, yeah, I'd definitely say she took the brunt of the hurt.
It would
right?
have been a lot easier for them to walk away. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm really shocked y'all are still married.
Yeah.
hey,
Y'all are too, aren't you?
Every morning I wake up and I'm like, what's she still doing here?
Or Dad, you know, Derek and I did, and I know we got to close this one out because maybe we need to do 2 weeks on this. But Derek and I have done some stuff together where we spoke to the county schools, coaches, and things like that. He given his testimony. And I learned from one of those doctors that when you get hooked on, you know, these pain pills, what was some of the ones you were on, like fentanyl, whatever?
No, that's like Xanax, which is benzodiazepine.
Yeah, so there's this need to take, if you take 3 today, you got to take 4 tomorrow, and it's going to eventually be 24 a day or 25 a day. And your addiction to, your desire to get higher keeps going up, but the death level for every one of those, everybody has their own
There's a
death
max.
level. In other words, it's like yours might be if you take 10 pills a day, you die. You know, mine might be I can take 15, but it doesn't change. Your desire and your need to get high changes, but your death date, your death level is always the same. And I was always terrified, especially with Derek, because I knew him then that he was just going to die. You know, and so I threw that in because I know there are a lot of people out there. I don't think fear works to try to scare people out of it, but that's the truth. And I want some truth. But I'm gonna let you. This and that, whatever we gotta.
Guys, I know this has affected me just hearing these guys' hearts and just willing to come here and do this. We still have a lot to get through, so this is actually, we're going to do 2 parts for this one. And so we'll see you guys next week.